Number 1, just for your reference, part A is prime. B, x plus 6 times x plus 1. C, 6x minus 1 and x plus 4. Those okay? All right, D. Okay, if I want to factor out my greatest common factor, first I have to look at how many terms we have. Here is a term, and here is a term. So I'm looking at what goes into both of those. There are a couple different options. I do see they have parentheses in common. So I could take out a 3x plus 1. You always take out the smaller power, so that would be the third. We could take out an x minus 2. Which power is smaller? Okay. Coefficient-wise, 2 times 3, that's a 6. This is a 1/3. You don't necessarily have to take it out, but if you don't want to have a fraction in there, which might make it a little bit nicer, let's go ahead and just take out a 1/3. So now, we need to look at what we have remaining. So we have to do each term. In the first term, 2 times 3 is 6. When I take out the 1/3, it's like saying 6 divided by 1/3. How do you divide by a fraction? Multiply by the reciprocal. So 6 times 3 is 18. Does everyone see how I got an 18 there? And make sure if you don't have these on your paper that you're fixing them. We took out all of that. Okay, here, this was a positive 1/2. I took out x minus 2 to the negative 1/2. When you factor it out, it's like subtracting exponents. So 1/2 minus negative 1/2 just gives us a 1. So x minus 2 to the first. In this term, we took out the 1/3. I took out 3 of the 3x plus 1s. So that leaves 1. And I took out all of that. So I'm going to simplify what we have. Inside here, you would distribute and combine like terms. Can't do that in one step. So it'd be 18x plus 3x, so 21x. Negative 36 plus 1 is negative 35. What do you notice about that? And 35. What can we do? So if I take out 7, it would get multiplied with this 1/3, so it turns into 7/3. Divided by 7 is 3. 35 divided by 7 is 5. So you could leave it like that. If you did write it as a fraction, so 7/3, anything with a positive exponent would stay on top. Negative exponents go down to the bottom. Either of those answers are fine. Is that one okay? Alright. Number 2, I'm just checking. That one you just multiply by the conjugate, so 5 plus the square root of x. So the numerator, in any order, you should have the terms 5x, x radical x, plus 10, plus 2 radical x, over 25 minus x. 3a is about 2.7. We're going to talk about b. C, your domain is from negative 6 to positive 6. Range negative 4 to positive 4. I meant to have like dots on the end of that to clarify it, so sorry about that. If you assumed it kept going, that's my fault. If you thought it kept going, it would have been negative infinity to infinity for both. D, your max, you could write it as an ordered pair if you wanted, 4, 4. Your min, negative or negative 4. E zeros are where you cross the x-axis, so that's just at 0. F, it's increasing from negative 4 to positive 4. Doesn't matter if you have parentheses or brackets. Are we okay with those? So the one we asked about was 3b. And it says to estimate the values such that f of x equals 3. F of x is the same as what variable? Y. So I'm saying, where does y equal 3? So what I want you to do is go to your graph. Y equals 3 is a horizontal line of 3. So I want you to draw in a horizontal line right there. And I'm asking you to approximate where your graph hits that. So our graph looks something like this. So it hits here and here. You're estimating the x values of those. So the first one is just a little bit after the 2. I said approximately 2.3, somewhere thereabouts. This one is a little after the 5. I think on the actual graph it's a little bit closer to 6, so I think I put 5.6, but definitely can't be exact there. So close to those values counts. Does that make sense to everyone? Problem 4. We didn't ask about it, but part A, you should get 2x plus h minus 2. B. So make sure if you don't have it or you messed up, you're fixing these. So we have to find the difference quotient, and I did give you the formula for it. When we did it in class, we typically broke it up to make it a little bit easier. So we would do f of x plus h, then we would do the f of x plus h minus f of x, and then we would do the whole thing divided by h. Now you're welcome to do it all at once, but it was just a little more clear for us to do step by step. So f of x plus h says you go to your function, you replace your x with x plus h. So it would be negative 3 over x plus h. Is there any simplifying we can do there? No, so that's it. B, f of x plus h, that's the answer we just got, minus f of x was the original. Okay, minus a negative we would add. If you want to add fractions, what do we need? Common denominator. So this one would have to get multiplied by x on top and bottom. This one would have to get multiplied by x plus h on top and bottom. So we get negative 3x over x times x plus h plus 3x plus 3h over x times x plus h. Denominators are the same, so we can write them as a single fraction. When you do that, positive and negative 3x cancel. So it's just 3h over x times x plus h. And if you distribute at the bottom, that's fine. Now what do we have to do? So take that answer I just got and divide that by h. That's like h over 1. If you want to divide fractions, what do you do? So let's cancel and you get 3 over x times x plus h. Or you could have had x squared plus hx. Any questions there? We didn't ask about number 5. For part A, x can't be positive or negative 1. Since it's more than one value, you are allowed to just list them. If you wrote the interval, it would be negative infinity to negative 1, union negative 1 to 1, union 1 to infinity. G is negative infinity to 1/5 with a bracket. Number 6, you get 4x squared minus 40x to the 4th. Do we need to talk about either of those questions? Problem 7, just so we can check ourselves, and then if we missed it, we can work it out. Part A, you should get y equals 6x plus 3,000. B, your slope is 6. When I say what it represents, I expect you to write a sentence like using the number 6. Okay, so think about we found slope as y divided by x. The y in this case was the cost, the x was the number of toasters, so you can say it costs $6 per toaster to produce. And the y-intercept, part C, is our 3,000. So to write a sentence, you could say your fixed costs are $3,000, or it costs $3,000 if no toasters are produced, something along those lines. Is that one okay? Right. Number 8, let's just check these. A is negative 1, B negative radical 3 over 2, C negative radical 3 over 2, D negative 1. Number 9, A 0 and pi, B 4 pi over 3 and 5 pi over 3, C pi over 3 and 4 pi over 3. Do we need to talk about 8 or 9 at all? Problem 10, you're just writing the equations. So part A, your function would be x to the 5th plus 2. B, left is on the inside, so it would be x plus 2 to the 5th. C, if you reflect over the x, it means you're making your y's negative, so a negative out in front. D, right would be on the inside, so x minus 3 to the 5th, and down 1, so a minus 1 on the end. Are those okay? We did ask about problem 11, so let's work that one. So I told you to use transformations to do this. What is my parent function? So if we start with our parent, it's just a parabola. 0 squared is 0, 1 squared is 1, negative 1 squared is 1. That would be enough points. If you wanted more, you could certainly do like 2, 4, negative 2, 4, and get some more. Okay, in order though to tell my transformations, I can't see what I'm doing right now. So what did we do? We completed the square. We made a perfect square. So we group the x terms together, leave the minus 4. So remember, completing the square, it's the middle term, divided by 2, and squared it. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. So you add a 9. It's all on the same side of the equation, so the opposite of adding 9 would be? Now this should factor. What's this turn into? Minus 13. So, I did not make my graph small enough, did I? I need to go down 13. And left 3. Oh my God. So it should look something like that. So the real thing I'm testing here is, do you know how to complete the square? And then once we do that, we can use our transformations for the final graph. Is that one okay? look at problem 12. A spherical balloon is being filled so the radius increases 3 centimeters per second. So a sphere is a ball. Express the radius of the balloon as a function of time, so RT. If it increases 3 centimeters every second, so that means at time 0 it's 0. After 1 second it's 3. After 2 seconds it's 6. 3 seconds it's 9. What is my formula? Alright, volume. On the test I would give you this formula if you needed it. Volume of a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. And I said, to do the composition, I want you to do V composed with R. So I am replacing my R with my 3T. Okay, so if I want to simplify this, 3 cubed is 27, T to the third. 27 divided by 3 is 9, times 4 pi would be 36 pi T cubed. Does everyone know how I got that? Let's just check our answers. Part A, 3x squared minus 3x plus 7. B is negative 3x squared minus x minus 1. C, 12x squared minus 34x plus 28. And D is negative 13. Do I need to work out any of those? Cindy, I'm happy to work on that. We did ask about that one. So, I said h is equal to f of g of x. And my h is equal to negative 3 over 5x plus 4 cubed. There are lots of possible answers on this. I'm asking you what the original functions f and g were. G is the inside. What do you want your g value to be?
5x plus 4.
That's one possible answer. If that is my g, f is when we take that out and replace it with an x. So I said my g is 5x plus 4. If I replace that whole thing with an x, my f is negative 3 over x cubed. Other possible answers, you could have said g is 5x plus 4 to the third. And then your f would just be negative 3 over x. You could have said your g is 5x. And then your f would be negative 3 over x plus 4 cubed. Did anyone have a different one? Okay. So you just have to have one of those. Problem 15. Laws of exponents, and I gave you a nice ugly expression. So we have the square root of a radical b over the cube root of ab times a cubed will be the fifth squared. All right, I would start by writing things with fraction exponents. Okay, so I'm going to simplify this first parenthesis. All of this is under a square root. A square root is like what power? So then I have an a, and then the b was under its own square root, so that's like an ab to the 1/2. So that's representing this piece. On the denominator, that whole thing was under a cube root, so that would be ab to what power? Okay, and this one. All we have to do is take our square to both. Power to a power you multiply, so that's a to the 6th, b to the 10th. So now we clean up. This distribute our power, so we get a to the 1/2, b to the 1/4, because we're multiplying exponents. Over a to the 1/3, b to the 1/3. So a to the 6th over b to the 10th. Different options you can do from here. We could simplify this one, or we could multiply first. Which one do you want to do? Multiply. Okay. When you're multiplying, because these a's are written each time, you add the exponents. So 1/2 plus 6. If you struggle with that, it's like 6 over 1. Right? So the common denominator, that's 12 over 2. So a to the 13/2. My b is still the 1/4. On the bottom we have a to the 1/3. So with my b's, 1/3 plus 10. 10 is 30 over 3, so we get b to the 31 over 3. Now, if you are dividing, what do we do with exponents? Subtract them. Obviously, I didn't give you super nice numbers here. Test numbers would be nicer. Which one's bigger, 13/2 or 1/3? So if you subtract those, you get a to the 37 over 6 power. B, we have more on the bottom, so 31 over 3 minus 1/4. So that'd be 121 over 12. Just by getting a common denominator and subtracting. Test, those numbers would probably be a little bit nicer. Any questions on that one? 16a is the natural log of 7 plus 1, all divided by 5. B, you should get e to the 4th plus 3. Do we need to talk about either of those? 17a, your parent function is 2 to the x. And they 1, 1/2, 0, 1, 1, 2. The transformation on that one is going down 3. Make sure if you move that up or down, the asymptote moves. So you draw that in. So it would look like that. Domain, negative infinity to positive infinity. Range, -3 to infinity, not touching the -3. Now 17b, we're starting with a log. So we need the parent function. That's our basic log. So this would just be a log base 3 of x. If you write that in exponential form, it means 3 to the y power equals x. So think about your t-chart. Y is the exponent, so that's where I put my -1, 0, and 1. 3 to the -1 is 1/3, 3 to the 0 is 1, 3 to the 1st is 3. So 1/3 -1, 1, 0, 3, 1. My parent function, so that's my dashed one. This one has a vertical asymptote. What will my +2 do to this? So since at a vertical asymptote, moving to the left moves that asymptote, and then we just slide each point over 2. What's our domain? And the range? Alright. 18. A is 2, B is 10, C is 7. Any questions there? So we have about 15 minutes. I have lots of extra problems that I put together. We'll work through as many as we can. We might kind of jump around to make sure we hit the things that you guys really need. ask you to use a table to do a composition. We know with compositions, we start on the inside. That's kind of like the very last question you guys had here. So this is g of f of 6. So starting on the inside, what is f of 6? That's when x is 6, f is 2. Now we need g of 2. So when x is 2, g is 5. And that would be our final answer. So can we read those compositions? All right, domains. We know we have two things going on here today. We have a fraction and we have a radical. So we have to take both into consideration. We know that in a fraction, what can't happen? So I know x can't be -1. If you have a square root, what has to be true? What's under the radical has to be greater than or equal to 0. So x is greater than or equal to -1. Okay, so my overall domain. Greater than or equal to -1 looks like this. But then I said x can't be 1, so what do I change? That would become a parenthesis. So my domain is just -1 to infinity with a parenthesis on the -1. Alright, exponent problem. You have to take the fifth to everything in the numerator. So that becomes 2 to the 5th, x to the 35th over 4x cubed. What is 2 to the 5th?
32.
So 32 divided by 4 is 8. With my x's, we subtract exponents, so 35 minus 3 is 32, and there's nothing left on the bottom, so it's just 8x to the 32. Word problems. Biologists have noticed that the chirping rate of crickets of a certain species is related to temperature, and the relationship appears to be very nearly linear. A cricket produces 113 chirps per minute at 70 degrees Fahrenheit and 173 chirps per minute at 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Find a linear equation that models the temperature T as a function of the number of chirps per minute in. Alright, when you are doing this, the biggest issue is making sure you know what x and y are. If I say temperature is a function, the function is your y value. The number of chirps in has to be my x. Sometimes I don't give you variables to use, so you could use x and y here, I did tell you. Now, we need to go back and write these as ordered pairs. Remembering, the x is the number of chirps, the y is my temperature. So my first point would be 113.70. My second point, 173.80. Now what do we do? Slope y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I get 10 over 60, which reduces to 1 over 6. Now we need the y-intercept. So pick one of your points, plug into y equals mx plus b. So my y is 70, slope is 1/6, x is 113 plus b. That would be 113 over 6. If I subtract that over, so 70 would be like 420 over 6 minus 113 over 6, 307 over 6. So my equation y which the variable I told you to use for your y was t, equals 1/6x, which is my n, plus 307/6. Then it says, explain the meaning of the slope. So if I'm asking you to write me a sentence about the slope, you need to make sure you're including the number within that. Okay, so the last assignment, several of you lost point because you may have told me what the slope means, but you didn't use any actual numbers in it. So I want you to use it in context. My slope is 1/6. We got that by doing y over x. Y was my temperature, which was degrees Fahrenheit. What did my x represent? So y over x, degrees over the number of chirps. So then, let's say, for every degree, the temperature rises. There are 6 more chirps per minute. We could say that number of chirps per minute is increasing by 6 for every degree the temperature rises. Something along those lines. Is that one okay? Let's jump to, let's go to this one. An airplane is flying at a speed of 350 miles per hour at an altitude of 1 mile and passes directly over the radar station at time t equals 0. Express the horizontal distance s the plane has flown as a function of the time t in hours. So, D. So this is starting at time 0. My plane is flying. What expression would we use for that distance? It's flying 350 miles every hour. So times your time. Okay? S is the distance between the plane and the radar station. We know this is 1. So can we get a formula for S? What would I have to use to get that? So 1 squared. D squared equals S squared. So S would be the square root of 1 plus D squared. We don't need plus or minus because we know it's positive. So then if I ask you to put those together, you're replacing the D with the 350T. So 1 plus 350T. If it were a nice number, you know, like an 8, you could go ahead and square it. 350, just leave it like that. Is that okay? We did ask about the difference quotient yesterday. You guys seemed to do okay on the quadratic one today, but we had trouble with the fraction one. So let's try another one of those. So we need f of x plus h. So that just means you replace x with x plus h. And remember on the test it would tell you f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. I would give you that formula. So now we can do the whole numerator. f of x plus h minus f of x. So f of x was 4 over x. If we want to subtract, we have to have common denominator. So I'm going to take the first one times x on top and bottom, second one times x plus h. So that gives me 4x over x times x plus h minus 4x plus h. Can I go ahead and distribute that? Say 4x plus 4h. So if we distribute our negative, 4x's cancel, so we get negative 4h over x times x plus h. Finally, we have to do that whole thing divided by h. So the answer we just got divided by h. How do you divide by a fraction? So it's like h over 1. So if you multiply this with 1 over h. So my h's drop and we get negative 4 over x times x plus h. Alright, we only have like 3 minutes. Look at the next few questions. Is there anything that you definitely want to make sure I go through?
The last one.
Last one, okay. And what I will do is I'll go ahead and finish these questions and stick it over in the answer key folder if you want to work any others and check yourself for review. So I am solving these. So first we have to get the trig function by itself. So we would start out dividing by 2 on each side. How do we get rid of a square? Square root, and with a plus and minus. Cosine theta equals plus and minus. Square root of 1 is 1, can't do the square root of 2. Radical off the bottom, so that's radical 2 over 2. Since it could be positive or negative, we have to look at every quadrant. We know cosine is positive in 1 and 4, but it's negative in 2 and 3. What is my reference angle? So thinking about the hand trick, cosine is the square root of the bottom over 2. When is that radical 2 over 2? 45 degrees. We're in radians, so that's pi over 4. So in quadrant 1, pi over 4 is pi over 4. In quadrant 2, the top is 1 less, so 3 pi over 4. Quadrant 3, it's 1 more, so 5 pi over 4. Quadrant 4, double minus 1, 7 pi over 4. B, if we divide our negative 3, we need to know when tangent is negative. So everything's positive in 1, sine's positive in 2, so tangent's negative. Tangent's positive in 3, so it's negative in 4. Reference angle. When is tangent radical 3 over 3? So tangent square root of the top over square root of the bottom. When is that? 30 degrees, which is pi over 6. So pi over 6 in quadrant 2, the top is 1 less, so 5 pi over 6. Quadrant 4, double minus 1 would be 11 pi over 6. I've got oodles of time. So we started off putting the x's together because we have to complete the square here. So now to make a perfect square, you take the middle term, divide by 2, and square it. So negative 8 divided by 2? Negative 4. Square it, and that would give us 16. So we add 16 here, which means what do I put on the outside? So this, multiply 16, add to negative 8 would be negative 4 and negative 4. So it's x minus 4 squared minus 9. So then your graph, which is probably not the part you were having trouble with on those. And we know our parent function is our parabola. How does this parabola get moved?
Down 9 by 4.
Mm-hmm. So make sure we know how to complete the square. Let's go ahead and look at the next question too. One of those ugly factoring ones. We have two terms. Here's a term. Here's a term. What do they both have? Okay. Which exponent is smaller, 3 or 4? Okay, they both have 2x minus 1. Would I take out 1/3 or negative 2/3? What else might I want to take out here? The 1/2, so we don't have a fraction to go deal with. Okay. We have to figure out what's left. So this started, the first term had coefficients of 4 and 2. That's 8. I need to take 8 and divide it by 1/2. So that means 8 times 2 is 16. We took out all of the x plus 5s. And we have 2x minus 1. We had 1/3. We took out negative 2/3. So 1/3 minus negative 2/3 would just be 1. Second term, I took out the 1/2. I had 3 of the x plus 5, so there's 1 left. And I took out the 2x minus 1. So to simplify, this would be 32x plus x, so 33x, minus 16 plus 5, minus 11. What could I take out there? 11. And you could just put it in front, so they get 11 halves. X plus 5, 2/3, 2x minus 1. 2/3, and then that'll be a 3x minus 1. Now I have 2 minutes. Let's do the last problem of the day. How would I solve this first one?
Oh wait, it would be 6 to the
close. The base of the natural log is e. You always start with the e. So it's e to the 6th power equals x minus 4. So then if you're getting x by itself, you just add the 4 over. So it's just e to the 6th plus 4. Second one, what would I add to each side? So natural log and an e cancel, so we just get a minus 3x equals the natural log of 7. So you can subtract your 8, divide by negative 3. Depending on what order you've done it, you may have also had all your signs flipped. Both of those are correct. Alright, so there's only 2 that I didn't get through. 3 I didn't get to. I will have those